What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to show you guys a recap of my 2021 World Open. Pretty interesting tournament. Definitely some really nice games. Some games that were not so nice. Some break or make moments for sure. But before I get into that, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more great chess videos. Alright, so we're going to start off round 1. I'm playing this girl, Sanjana Vittal. She's about 1900 FIDE. And boy, this game was fireworks from the get-go. So we start off with a Scotch Gambit. Bishop c5, castle. She goes d6. Now d6 is probably the more solid line, but there's some really fun stuff that white can do here. And I basically play like an Evans game with b4. So b4, if take, now I go c3. So c3. So first off, I've never seen someone take the pawn. So this is my first game of that. And after c3, no one in the history has ever taken the second pawn. Because this is asking for it, especially with the bishop. You're going to give me away your bishop pair. And wow. I mean, this is just like, and if you get these positions, just know, you have 5 to 10 moves where you really need to prove your advantage. If she survives the 10 moves, a good chance is that she's going to have an equal or better endgame, and you don't want that. So now you got to start really turning up the heat and play super aggressive. So queen b3, attacking f7. Here she goes queen e7, and now remember, when you're playing like this, you got to open up as fast and aggressively as possible. So I go e5, sacrifice another pawn. This is pawn number 3, by the way. She takes always because it's worked so well for her so far. And I go rook e1. Now she goes knight a6, and now the fun really begins. I go bishop a3. Bishop a3, now she can never castle. Now when she can't castle, it's going to buy me some time to really open up the position. Unfortunately for her, I don't even need time. So queen f6, I have basically all my pieces mobilized. I can still go rook d1, but this is already enough. And a good formulator knows when you're attacking, you want to have at least +2 pieces, +2 attackers and their defenders, and if you have that, then you can sacrifice. You know you're gonna win. That's when you really turn it up. So I have, let's count it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against 1, 2, maybe 3. So now I'm +2 on the attacking. So this is generally a time where you can see like the big knockout punches, or at least the beginning of the combination. So here I go knight takes pawn. She has to take, otherwise everything falls apart. Now queen check. Queen check. If king d8, rook takes, and it's just a crush. Just everything is coming in, and there's no way for her to defend everything. So she goes c6, queen check, c6, take, and the key move here is bishop e7 check. The reason this is so strong is because if she takes it, rook check, bishop block, and now queen a5 check. So here, if she goes b6, queen a5 is very important, because now I can go take, rook takes, and the difference is now I can go bishop a6 check, because this pawn is now no longer on b7. So bishop a6 check, king b8, rook b7, and this just leads to checkmate at rook takes pawn. If here, check and take, and if the other way, king d8, rook d7 is just GG's. So here, man, like this is when she starts realizing she can't take my free stuff. It's probably not worth it. Goes king c7, queen a5 check, and I go to a simple transition. Queen takes c3. Everything's under attack, and her queen doesn't have a good kind of option to go to, good square to go to. So queen g6, rook g5, queen e4, rook e1, and you see all the pieces are swarming around the queen, almost like she's in a spider net. Spider web. Sorry. Queen h4, and now bishop d6 check. And this is really like kind of the killing blow, because she wanted to run away this way and kind of hide, tuck, cover up and be like, hey, I'm good. But here she can't take, because queen e5, queen e7, GG. So she goes king d8, and this is where I go queen takes g7, and it's just all over. Ironically here, kind of her last move, she actually is threatening something for the first time kind of in the game. Knight g4 threatens queen takes f2, and then, sorry, queen takes f2, queen takes e1, queen takes f1, and checkmate. Unfortunately, she doesn't get a second to do it. So queen takes, here, check, here, and actually in this moment, I was very tempted to pretend to go queen f6, keep my hand on the piece, give her hope, because the knight could take, and then go queen d8, and then that's GG. So I mean, to start off the tournament, perfect way to start off. This is like a 1-hour game, very easy. I mean, all the fun. Literally, the people up next to me, the boys around me, were looking at my game more than theirs, because they were like, man, I want to figure out how this guy's gonna finish off this game. So excellent start, 1 out of 1, and now we're gonna go to round 2. All right, so this is round 2. I'm playing Grandmaster Vladimir Belous, who just won the Philly International, so I know he's riding high, and I would just look forward to a very nice, fun game. We have played in the past, didn't go so well for me, So I'm also just making sure that nothing crazy happens. So he goes to King's. He gets a King's Indian as white, and I get this anti-King's Indian line, which is I think very straightforward. Like basically you get the center, you chill there, and you just like enjoy the space. Remember, as black, most of the time you're worse because white gets the first move, and he's gonna have more space than you. So if I can get equal amount of space or even more as black, man, I'm gonna take that to the bank. So h6, I'm just making a waiting move, just waiting. Tagging d5, I pull it back, and I go d4. My idea is, this is probably going to turn to Benoni. He's going to go e3 and take. And the Benoni, I know, is, as someone who's played it, is not the most concrete good opening. So I was more than happy to go into it. I go knight a6, e3, and then here, computer like c5, just, having a grip of the position like this. d3 is weak. Yeah, b7 is a little bit soft, but I think it's very defendable. But I go for rook b8 instead, take, and we get a very similar position. I think here he should have tried to not allow me to go c5 and kind of sink in the hook for the position. So queen a3 is computer line, but he goes rook e1, c5, queen c2. We'll just keep going forward, and now I really start going aggressive mode. Like I see all his pieces over here, and this side is very empty. I got two bishops, queen, and the knight can hop in pretty fast. So I'm already trying to think like how do I kind of get some stuff going. He goes h3, almost out of necessity. Because bishop g4 was like very, very annoying. There's nowhere good for him to put the knight. So h3 I take. He told me after the game he didn't really like it. And I kind of get it because, I mean, I have good prospects here. But, I mean, a pawn is a pawn and I'm playing a GM as black. Like, why wouldn't I be a pawn up? So take bishop g2 and he goes here, and he goes rook b1. Now, anytime, obviously I'm attacking this pawn, right? And if he goes rook b1, it's not like he didn't see that I'm attacking d3. And especially against a grandmaster, if he's going to give me a pawn so obviously, I'm not going to just take that. I'm really going to think about it. And in fact, I don't even take it. I don't like free stuff if it means they get compensation for it. So rook e8, he goes queen f3, knight e5, take here, and the whole idea is I can sack the rook, because now if he takes, I take on e1, and if rook takes, I was really looking forward to knight takes, or bishop takes g3, or take on f2. And this just like blows up his position. Everything's going to go with tempo. I think king takes, queen takes g3 check, king e2. I'm going to get at least a rook back, according to the calculations I had. And I was really happy with this position. So check, king c1, and it's kind of cool. You go here, check. He has to block with the bishop. Remember, this is pin. If he blocks the rook, I get the queen. And if here, I have bishop f4 check. And that is pretty much lights out. So he did the wise thing, and he basically just went to the endgame. Down a pawn, but this outside pass pawn gives me a little bit to worry about. So b4, rook d8, and here, I mean, I wasn't freaking out much. I don't think he should have taken on c5. I feel like that made it very easy for me. b5 would have been the more annoying move. And originally I planned knight c7, but knight b8 makes a lot of sense. Knight b8, knight d7, knight b6, just blockade over here, and then c4 is also weak. And this is actually why you went against it, and maybe I would have found an OTB, but that was not my plan. So this, and I get a very nice, easy position. And then here, it's very important, don't just sit there and wait. Because if I do that, he's going to find some kind of way to make some play. I mean, he's a GM. I think his endgame is also very strong. So I don't want to just sit there. So this, I trade off. Same color bishops, and I'm up a pawn. So one, I can't really lose, and two, I still have winning chances. So this is kind of the dream of I want. And unfortunately here, I play the right move without even seeing the right idea. So this, and the winning idea is h5. So h5, and he basically hits Zugzwang. So he goes this way, I can take here, I guard the pawn, he's just down a pawn. If he tries to go here, I push, and now he can't guard everything. Because bishop c3, and I'm gonna win the bishop this way. So this actually would have been really nice of a win if I had seen it. And this is the problem of, I don't know, like playing GMs or high rated. You settle for less a lot of times. You're like, let me just get the easier, slightly better position instead of really looking for the knockout. But if I was playing a low rated here, I'd be like, alright, how am I going to knock this guy out? So whoever you play, pretend they're Magnus, and they're up half a point in the match, and you need to win. If you have that mindset, you will find wins that you didn't even think were possible. So, unfortunately, I did not find this outside pass pawn idea, and I just settled for like this position. So take, check, here, and I thought about for a sec, maybe I'd play for the win and go like king g4. But I think this is a pretty easy draw for white. f6 is the key move. Take, and this is not going to be enough to win. His pawn is actually even kind of annoying too, so I wouldn't want to go into this. I decided to just take the draw and just repeat with king f6. But second round, black, a strong GM, a GM who just won a major tournament. It's a good play to start, but looking back, I really wish I found this win. And you're going to see towards the end of the tournament, all these little half points, all these games I could have won or held, they're going to make a big, big difference. So 1.5 out of 2, still riding high. Let's move on to round 3. Alright, so this is round 3. I'm playing Aleksandr, number 13 in the country, I believe. Very strong grandmaster. And I have the white pieces. So we start out with Caracan, or Caracan as I like to call it. Honestly, one of my favorite openings to play against. Yeah, you can get some very nice positions. I'm just playing some general stuff over here. And I know this H5 line is the computer defense, one of the more popular variations these days. And basically I know this is the idea that the computer likes for white. And this is kind of where my theory ends. You go C4, you get your knight to C3. You can always kind of snag a bishop with knight E4. You can go C5, D5. You have all these breaks. The only thing is your kingside attack is not as fast as you'd like it to be, but I like my chances here. So king B1, I'm making some just normal moves, and then bishop F5. Really nothing crazy too far. And what I kind of realized is against these GMs, especially the super high ones, just make normal moves. Like, you don't have to try too hard to win. Obviously, you don't want to play defensive, but at some point, like, they have to win, right? A draw is not good enough for them, so they're going to go reaching, trying to do too much, and that's kind of where you catch them. So bishop b8, rook e1, just natural moves, g3, no free pawns here, and then actually, maybe instead of g3, I could have gone rook e2 first, because after g3 I find this idea where basically I can double up, I have the line of fire now because the knight's guarding, and rook d2 and d5 is a very important idea. So that's what I'm thinking here, and he goes queen h3, so queen h3, I go d5, take, and I'm like, there's no way he's going to take this pawn. I'm like, come on, man, that's got to be so dangerous, and he takes the pawn. And now it's like, alright, it's go time. Like, whenever the queen's off in the corner somewhere, it's like, I don't know, it's like your dad's not home, the guy who does all the punishing, and it's like, alright, now we can have a party. Or it's almost like your parents aren't home for the weekend, so now you can throw a party. So with the queen or the parents off in the corner or off on vacation, now it's time to party over here. So I'm going to hit him hard. I'm going to go rook e to d2, threatening knight takes pawn check, and then rook takes rook because of the line of fire / discovery. He goes king h8, and now I go queen f5. And I don't know if we missed this, because he kind of did play fast, but rook e5, I was like, I have this tactic. Knight takes f6. Now if he takes the queen, I got back rank. Here, and it goes the same way if he takes the rook. He doesn't have time to take the rook, because now I have queen check, which also is going to be GG. So knight takes pawn. I do see rook f8, and I see this during the calculations, and I'm like, oh man, maybe I'm not okay here. But even then, like, I was like, okay, his king's so weak, like, what's the worst that can happen? And then I remember his queen, off on vacation, is very easy to trap. So if I just go queen f3, now the problem is he can't take here because I have rook h1. And at first I was like, rook f5, but I can take on b7. And all the way from another country, this queen is guarding the rook, keeping this queen trapped. And that is just going to be GG for him. So after rook h1, or knight takes f6, sorry, queen f3, he's forced to go queen h3. And now I just have a simple knight d7, here, take on b7, check here, and then he just goes ahead and resigns. So 30 moves. I mean, honestly, he was just kind of greedy. I mean, nice tactics by me, I guess, to punish him for his greediness. But yeah, I mean, this is my highest rated win ever. Felt pretty good. I mean, after the game, I'm gone. All these people texting me and telling me, hey, good job. But in the back of my mind, just like Chris Paul, I knew, don't take it to your head. He's got 6 more rounds. Yes, you have a good start now, but do not choke it away and not get an I am a GM norm. And you will see exactly what happens. And we'll find out if I choke it away or not. So 2.5 out of 3, going into the next round. Alright, so round 4, I'm playing well-known Grandmaster, Ben Finegold. I have the black pieces. And he starts with d4, which I kind of expect. I mean, he knows my style pretty well. Like, we've seen each other play. We've played a couple times. He knows I'm trying to take his head off, and I know he's going to kind of hold and wait for his moments to kind of just grind me or win a positional kind of position. Positional position. Alright, so we start just a Stonewall Dutch. Or not a Stonewall Dutch, like a Dutch, but still flexible enough to be a Stonewall. So bishop e7. I've seen this line a good amount of times. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable here. So here, castle, bishop d3. And here, I could have transitioned to Stonewall Dutch and gone d5. That honestly might have been the way to go, because that's a structure I'm very, very familiar with. Whereas this, I know this d6 e5 idea, but I don't have so many games in it. And thinking back, it was probably better to go into something like I know pretty well, I've played before. And remember, as black against a higher rated, it's okay to have like just equal positions and you try to outplay them. You don't have to go for broke completely. So e5, very interesting variation was d5, which I was looking back at. So take, and I mean if I trade queens, I think I'm okay. Queen b4, I can play this position. Even outpost on e4. I think once again very similar to Stonewall Dutch, but now I have whenever they take and I get rid of the e6 pawn, this is very nice for black. So this one would be a good transition. Instead, I go a bit more aggressive. Actually, what really bothered me is I didn't even see d5. I just immediately was like, I want to go e5, so I went e5. When I look over my games, I always don't like when I miss moves. I think really like I'm sitting there, it's my job to find every variation and at least like see it. When you don't see it, it's like, hey, like how'd you not see that, man? So I don't want to take and then the light squares are really weak and his pieces get active, so I go f4 locking it up. And I knew in the bottom of my heart, he's going to castle queenside. He's not going to castle kingside and go into this, unfortunately. So castle queenside, I'm still pretty happy because I think it's a pretty easy game to play. Like he's attacking here, I'm attacking there. So I'm just getting my pieces out, this. And honestly, I was kind of shocked that he took the pawn. Like I was like, wow, I get so many tempos, this is great. And he was like, wow, he gave me a pawn, this is great. Part of it was I just came off beating the kind of the best game of my life, or the best win of my life, and in it I sacrificed the pawn. So how was I not going to sacrifice the pawn this game and just think that everything was going to happen? Fortunately, the computer was not a big fan of this variation, or this idea. I mean, I'm not losing, but it's not good. Basically, I think I played too loose. I played a little bit invincible because I thought that I had a nice position and I was coming off a big game. Also, he was taking a lot of time, and I could tell like the pressure was definitely at least having an effect on him. So that further fed my false confidence of like I'm going to win this game, or at least like I'm doing fine. So knight d4, bishop d7. Like here, I still feel like I'm cruising, and even here, like I was, and this is actually the closest I probably get to equalizing. So I go b4, queen e1, and I guess I could have just traded off and probably held that, but it's just so sad going from like, oh, I stacked a pawn, I have all this initiative, to now I'm trying to hold a worse endgame. But sometimes you got to make those like tactical smart retreats and know what is best for this position. But I keep going, queen c5, bishop e6, rook c6, and here c3 is just a god-awful move. And the reason this is so bad is I just completely missed rook d4. I thought he had to go king a1, and okay, well that's just GG. Yeah, rook c5. Okay, so I thought after here, he had to go a4. That's what I thought. And I was like, alright, I'll just win this pawn. Funny part is this is still like absolutely destroying for white. It's hard to really agree with +4 in an equal position where his king is like this. But I guess this bishop is dominating this knight so hard. And the problem is my king is always going to be suspect to back rank because this bishop and the light squares are in such a, kind of like a, I don't know, just control my king and this king side so well. That's why probably the evaluation's like this. The other idea I had in this position was just a5, a4, which actually turns out to be the best move, but it's just like very easy for him to play. And I was just playing like super ambitious chess, like way too ambitious. So this take, and now it's almost like holding time where I'm like, alright, hopefully I can hold this. And here, yeah, I did think about g6, but g6 seemed really sus, and even here I didn't think I was dead lost. g4 was a very nice move by him. Apparently had a lot of different ideas. Yeah, a3 was another big one. The g4 take, and I have to take, otherwise he's just going to go g4, g5 at some point, and my king's going to get cracked open. So I take, bishop f7, yeah, basically g5 is a move I do not have the courage to play, because I am worried about this king, as most human beings would be. So rook c8, here, and then here is basically torture time, and I just tell myself, like, I don't know, like, I could have held this better. I played like a madman. Just part of me knew, I think, that basically the fun was over and it was just a matter of time. Like this sack, I honestly thought it didn't not work. Like I thought, okay, a4 and I'm still okay because I have this, but I didn't even like. Basically, my heart was out of it at this point. Yeah, so kind of a false confidence from the last game, and as black, and just this pawn sack idea was not okay. I probably should have gone d5, or at least I think knight a5 is the top move, or knight d8, but not easy moves to kind of make because they look kind of funny. Probably d5 or just taking a Stonewall Dutch would have been just the right way to do it. but we're all human. We get excited, and that's basically what happened this game, and I paid the price. Not over. I'm still 2.5 out of 4. I beat 2600 Drew a GM, but I lost to a GM. And generally, to get norms, you cannot lose. Losing is going to put a huge dent in your hopes and aspirations. So this one really kind of took the air from me. But I'm going to come back next round. I have white. Probably going to play up again, and we'll see how that game goes. Alright, so round 5, I'm playing Grandmaster Christopher Repka, who is a pretty strong GM. I think actually last round he was on board 6 or 7, so he had a pretty good tournament from what I remember. And I know this is a very important round for me, because if I lose this game, I'm going to go back to playing down, which I don't want to do. It makes it very hard to norm when you play people who are rated 2,000, 1,900. And if I win, I score against a GM, or if I draw, I score against a GM, and that's going to really push on this norm push that I'm trying to make. So we get a Scotch game, but I actually looked up his game before. I looked up some of his games before the round, and I actually knew that he was going exactly into this line, the Bishop E7 line. And this is actually all theory. This is all my prep up to, I think, Bishop F4, so C5. And I think I knew F6 was a move, but I wasn't ready to play it. So basically, computer puts this as equal because I'm down a pawn, but his king is open. And looking back, this is definitely the way to play. Because I have at least some compensation, and there's definitely some fun stuff that can happen in this position, probably for both sides, but that's the way to play. So I go with this here, and then Queen E6, and this is a very critical moment, because if I take this, he basically has to go pawn takes, and then this is a very elementary draw. Basically, it's opposite color bishops. I actually have the better pawn structure, so here, like, this is exactly the kind of position I want. 2 result, nothing that I have to worry about. And I'm scoring it to GM. And honestly, this would have been very easy. Like, if you want to think energy-wise and just like how much effort you have to put in each game, this would be a no-effort game. Like, to draw a GM, especially coming off a loss. Like, this is exactly what I wanted. The problem is I had still the confidence from the night before when I took down Lenderman, and I'm like, here, I'm gonna play for the win because I know I can beat these GMs, and I want to get a GM norm and win all the money and stuff. And that's the wrong mentality to have, because the bigger problem with it is I'm moving backwards and I'm taking bottom position against someone who's ranked higher than me. And it's just, you don't need to do that to yourself. Just take kind of like the easy position and play that. So here, I kind of just make some moves, and when he goes G5, I actually get kind of happy, because here's where I feel, okay, maybe he's going to overpress and do something wrong, and then I can get myself back into this game. But until then, I'm kind of just sitting, taking it, trying to go to this endgame. He finds a very nice maneuver, Knight D2. The idea is if I take, he takes on C2, but this is going to get it into an opposite color bishop position. And if Queen takes B3, I actually can force a draw with E6, which is pretty cool. Because if take, I can take out the bishop, take, Queen check, and then if he tries to not go perpetual, I can take the rook because I guard this bishop, and then I'm just winning. So basically the best thing he can do is just take the draw there. But he's clever to it, and he goes bishop F5. And here, like, rook takes C5 is fine, bishop takes, bishop E3 is fine. And then I go B4. Basically, I'm trying to trade and simplify because I want to draw. At this point, I want to draw. For some reason, way later. Like, why couldn't I take it before? And then I realize he can go Queen A2, and this is just GG because of the pins and the light squares. I have to go Rook D1, and now I'm just helpless. C4, and I literally have nothing. Queen E3, Queen C2, and that's just game over. And this is like, I mean, there's a million wins here. Very unfortunate. But let this be a lesson. Like, don't try too hard to win. Just know the position. Obviously, there are positions where you can push more or you can push harder. But this is not one of them. You have to play smart. Until I make IM or GM, I have to play smart and not go for just any risk. Like, especially when I start off hot, I've already kind of got the win, the signature win that I needed. So I should just cruise and just keep kind of like not losing. To get a norm, not losing is very, very important. So yeah, don't take bottom position playing hope chess, trying to just put emotions into it. So now I'm 2.5 out of 5. Still had a hot start, but now it's kind of come back to earth. A rough day, lost 2. So we're gonna actually, I think on top of this, the Hawks lost the game this night too. So this is just like the worst day ever after the best day ever. So, I mean, you got to pick yourself up, and remember, there's still 4 more games, and that's why chess and competition is so important. Because winning can have a bad effect on you, losing can have a bad effect on you, but also winning can have a good effect on you, and a bad effect on, and a good effect, and losing can have a good effect on you too. Just it matters on how you use it and how you kind of leverage it to help your future decisions. So whether you win or lose, make sure you learn and just don't make the same mistake again. Because when you make that same mistake, nothing hurts more than knowing that you just made the same mistake. Alright, so 2.5 out of 5. Let's go on to round 6. Alright, so round 6, I'm playing Julian Proleiko, who is a very strong player, definitely underrated, knows what he's doing. And man, this is the biggest train wreck opening series I've ever seen in my life. So D4, I wanted to avoid playing the French this tournament. Honestly, I don't know why. Looking back, the French would have been way better. But D4, I was like, okay, if I go E6, he's going to go E4, because I know he knows that I play the French. So I decided, genius I am, to go Knight F6. So Knight F6, C4, and now go E6. Alright, fine. We'll get a Nimzo. All he has to do is go Knight C3, and I'll go Bishop B4. So he goes Knight F3, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't played this in so long. I don't know what to do. I mean, I've played some other stuff. I played Bishop B4, played B6, and I didn't want to do any of that stuff. So the genius I am, I go D5, and I'm like, okay, maybe somewhere I can transpose it to a stone wall. And he goes E3, C6, and now I'm like, wait a minute, now I'm in a Slav. The Slav I actually played years ago. I hated it. I was like, I'm never playing this again. It's the worst thing ever. But here I am. And it's basically a semi-Slav, but I go Bishop D6 first. I mean, it's not a big difference. But I know this idea of take B4 and then B5, B4. And here it's like, alright, I'm just going to play. I mean, I don't really know this, but I know he doesn't know it as well either. Because I know he goes E4 most of the time, and he went D4. So I'm sure if I get a little off, a little deviation, that's going to confuse him as well. So Knight D7, I'm trying to go C5. So castle, castle, Bishop A6. And here I actually think I'm doing really well. I was like, I got everything I wanted. But yeah, E4, and he's doing really well. I think I need to go, I need to go C5 early, like really early, like C5 here. This is how you kind of get advantage as black. And then Bishop A6, if I can get C4 in, I shut down his bishop, and I'm good to go. But obviously I'm no expert. Now he goes Knight G5, and here I'm like, okay, he's really trying to like checkmate me and stuff. Knight C5 would have been a cool move. But if take, because take, I take. And then I have the line of fire against the queen. If I can get this light square bishop off, I think I also have good chances. But Knight F8, there is no mate. This is the kind of safe, easy way to play. E4, and now I have to... I was thinking about, here I was thinking a lot. There's so many different combinations. And here I thought all of them were winning, which is kind of sad. Like, you're going to see how bad my judgment is this game. So take, take. I go H6 to avoid any of these sacrifices on E6 and F7. Knight F3, and I go C5. And then here, I just think I'm like actually crushing him, because I was like, all I have to do is put a knight on D6, I blockade everything, and I'm going to go F5, and it's time to party. But as you can see, the jump in the valuation, Queen B7 is the best move, and even then I'm barely equal. I mean, he's probably got slight advantage. But this is just so good for white. But here, I think somewhere around here I was like, wait, I think I might actually be worse, because I can't actually push this. If I could get my knight around and actually push this pawn, I think completely different story. But the fact that he blockades it means that these pawns are so weak. And now you really have to bend over backwards to kind of like just defend everything. But I maneuver, and basically, how many times am I going to say basically? But I go to what I know, which is stack all your pieces around his king and try to checkmate him. So this, I was like, forget that side of the board. You can have whatever you want over there. I'm going to just try to stack everything over here. And as you can see, I am not doing so well. He's +6. Basically, like, if I can break through and find some checkmate, I have something. Otherwise, he's going to take the pawns. He's got the better pieces, and it's going to be rough. But Queen F8, basically, up to the very last move. So I think Rook C8 was not the best, because it allowed me to kind of get what I wanted, which was some counterplay. If he just played Rook D2 and kind of like sucked the life out of me, eventually his queen would just take all these pawns. If I don't mate him here, I've committed all my resources to checkmating him. So it's just, I wasted all my time and all my pieces. And then he can just pick up all these pawns one by one pretty much. But he goes in deep. I go Queen D1, check, here, and then here, like, I'm so close to pulling the trigger and going King H5, take, Rook here. But then I notice after this, he can just sack the Rook. So Bishop takes pawn, pawn takes, and just Queen F6. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, I win the Rook, but I think I might be cooked. Like, take, and then G4 check, and I have to sack, which is insane. King H4, Queen F1, and there's no way to stop me. So that I'm glad I saw that. Like, At this point, I've been calculating, 15 games in a row, because this is back-to-back tournaments. So my calculations did get a lot better, and I was actually finding like all the holes and all the little things. So I find the only saving move here, knight h5, thank God. So knight h5 here, queen f1, and then here I can actually just force the draw. So rook takes f2, rook here, and I can go rook e2 and try to play on a little bit, maybe try to get a win or something if he does the wrong thing. But at this point I was like, I've been way too close to death for too long, let's just call it. Which sounds like the worst like last words of a suicide, but just rook takes g2, and I offer a draw here, because if take, check, and there's no way for him to escape the checks. So not the best result, but to be so close to losing, and also like I'm on a 2-game skid right now, lost the last 2 games, so I need to stop the bleeding, and to get this close. I mean, this could be this. If I lost this game, that would have been it. So it's nice to at least still be alive. So live to fight another day. I mean, the opening decisions were just like honestly the worst. Like, in the major tournaments, don't try to do fancy stuff. Don't try to do new stuff. Play what you know. Play what you practiced, and then learn stuff on your off time, and then you can apply it. But never, in my opinion, just do the new stuff, because as you can see, I mean, I got a decent position, but I just didn't know it, so I didn't know when to do what or how to do when. So, alright, so now I'm what, 3 out of 6? I mean, if I win the next 3, I probably still have a chance, but I'm going to have to win the next 3. So let's see how that goes. Alright, so this is round 7 against Bijan Tahmassebi. His rating is about 2,200 FIDE. So let's get into this game. So e4, c6, we got a Caro-Kann again. This one, he goes bishop f5. I actually don't know the name for this. I go knight g3, h4, and h3. This is actually a tall variation. And normally you always stack pieces. I have this nice little bishop e3 novelty. And here, I've never seen bishop f4 before, but I mean, it's gotta be bad because I get the bishop pair. Now an interesting variation is take, and here. And I mean, for blitz, 100%. But not for blitz, like, it's not so simple. Like, you definitely, like, you have a lot of prospects, but his pieces come in pretty fast, and I don't know if it's, like, so easy for white really to generate so much counterplay. Now I go knight takes, and I just think here, like, this should be good. Now queen g4 and knight h5, I mean, I wanted to sack so bad. I want to go knight takes here and just queen f4. Because if he takes, I was either queen e5 or rook h3. And in my head, but the problem in this position is, remember, when you sacrifice a piece, you need to count the attackers and count the defenders. So I've got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 attackers, and he's got 1, 2, 3 defenders. So if I'm not +2, then it's probably not gonna work. Now if he cooperates and does some stuff for sure, but I don't want to bank on that. And also coming off a draw and 2 losses, like, I can't take the risk of going for broke like in this round. So I kind of end up slow playing it, but the problem with that is now I end up with a kind of subpar position, especially with white against low rated. You would want some, like, almost some kind of concrete advantage or some kind of at least like tangible advantage. But I play this position. We castle opposite sides. Now here b5 would have been pretty interesting. Let me turn this computer on by the way. And I think white is actually doing pretty well here. Okay, maybe not so well. But his king's kind of weak, so I always have some chances. But I went bishop h2 just to avoid all this. And then here, if I was brave enough, b5 is the move. But here, it is not easy to have a life where your king is on h1 and his rook's on g2. This always feels really sketch, and I mean, sometimes it's you gotta do what you gotta do, right? But sometimes it ain't easy, and that's what I was not prepared to do in this position. So I end up settling, and that's the other problem. When you settle, you maybe not get the best position, and it's a lot of it is you're relying on your opponent now. I'm really hoping that he makes some kind of bad mistake. He gets me into it, and if he doesn't, it's really tough. And this knight is honestly so much better than this bishop. My pieces are just a total mess here. This is when I really started feeling the fatigue coming in of playing 15 games of chess so far with 3 more to go. And I mean, I'm just hoping, kind of. So I get a little bit of counterplay, and then here I was thinking, do I take on f6? He has a forced draw, of course, but I'm also worried he might have some kind of tactic or something. And it looks really, really sketch. Like, definitely very sketch here. Which is why I don't take this pawn, but since I don't take this pawn, now I'm just suffering. I mean, this is just like, I'm getting the life sucked out of me. And honestly, this is like the Caro-Kann, like, how to Karakan on this game. This is like the model game. You make them think they can checkmate you, they can't checkmate you, and then you get basically an equalish middle game. Things get a little bit wild. You trade off queens, and now you have this end game where you're up a pawn and you're just kind of like torturing them until they can't take it no more. And that's exactly what's happened. And then this guy, like, he was taking it to me. Rook c1 here would have been really strong, because here I cannot take on b4 because rook check, and anywhere else, like, now the pawn's just gonna be a pass pawn, and that would have been, oh my god, the worst. But thank God he goes for this, trades off. Like, thank you Jesus, like, this is what I needed, man. And after this, it's very easy to hold. I just go king here, I get his king stuck to this pawn, push this, now his knight's stuck to this, now this is stuck to this, this is stuck to this, and this can guard this. So conceptually, very easy to draw from here. Honestly, I'm like happy with the draw, but it's also sad that I have a draw, because I need wins to normally get money, and this is not going to cut it. Definitely some fatigue, but I can't blame the fatigue. I need to blame the work ethic, and not already having seen this and knowing exactly what to do. Because I think I did burn a lot of clock in the opening, trying to figure out, like, what is going on here? Can I sacrifice? Can I attack? And that should all be done at home before the game. So moving on to round 8. Let's hope I can bounce back and get something going round 8. Alright, so this is round 8 against Todd Bryant. I think he's about 2,000 FIDE, maybe 2,100. So basically I look up his games before the tournament, and I see that he likes to play the King's Gambit, and I think the Dragon. So here I'm thinking this guy really likes to attack, like stack pieces, go all out. So when choosing an opening, I was like, maybe e5 is not the choice, maybe c5 is not the choice. I think French is probably best for this guy, because French is very good for neutralizing and attacking positions. Funny enough, when I lose in the French, it's by getting checkmated. But especially against low rateds, I think it's the easier way to go. Especially, I mean, once you played Classical, I knew I was basically good to go, because Classical is definitely one of my favorite Frenches. Very close to Sicilian, the way you play. Very simple plans, and I think white always has to kind of prove something. So bishop c5, queen d2, just normal stuff, and queen f2, queen c7, and knight e2 was kind of the new move for me. Something I haven't seen before, so I kind of keep the plan, and then knight g3. Basically his idea is he wants to bring the knight here, and then try to checkmate me with this, and queen g3. So I go bishop b7 here, and then I decide, knowing that he likes to attack, knowing that he's an attacking player, this guy is not going to like an endgame. So I take the queens off. I mean, really, at this moment, or the rest of the game, I'm just playing, waiting for him to lose, which probably is the wrong way to play, but I don't know. Sometimes it works. So basically, I'm just making moves, like just waiting for my moment. And then here is where my moment comes. So rook g1, he misses that I can go take, and king here. And now I'm going to actually almost reverse position and go rook h8. And now I get to start attacking him. And here the game actually, the game like almost finishes off very fast, because these pawns are so strong and there's really nothing he can do about it. Probably what he should have done here is just, I thought was trade and put a knight on d6. And I mean, I'm still, I think, actually doing fine here, but this is what I was more kind of preoccupied with during the game. But once he played rook here, I was like, all right, I'm winning this game this time. And after this, almost everything falls like so fast. Everything goes with tempo, and the key is really this pass pawn. Remember, in the end game, use your pass pawns; they will kind of guide you to victory. And after this, here, boom, 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 and now he can't stop because they're in rook check and queening, as well as I think rook takes pawn and kind of winning the knight and a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, this game, what was more interesting, the psychology, and I don't know if it's the reward out of it, of me avoiding the sharp positions and him not being as strong in the endgame. For a sec, though, I was not happy with my position, because I really got nothing out of it until he really made that big blunder. How much of it can you really rely on your opponent to make a blunder? I don't know. I definitely need more work on the endgame and stuff, but I'm glad it paid off. Like, it's been a while since I won with the French too, so it was nice to throw in the French in here and get a dub. So round 8, finally got a win after a streak of 2 draws, 2 losses. Now I'm going to the last round, 4.5 out of 8, I believe. And if I win the next round, I have a chance for money as well as a norm. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, so round 9, or round 18 in other words, finally. So basically here, I could see the end of the finish line coming off of 1 in the morning. If I win this, I got white maybe I get some money. Unfortunately, the guy's rating was about 2,000 or 1,900. If I played up this round and won, I think I would have normed, because at the end, I mean, I'll tell you the recap, but I was pretty close to norming, and playing at 2,000 last round is never going to help your average rating. So I get an e4, e5 Scotch Gambit, the classic, and luckily for me, I was at the finish line and I could see it, but this guy he could barely make it to the finish line, because we get this position. This is like a sharp line, and a lot of people as white don't know the theory, but even more people as black don't know the theory. So after bishop e3, he goes to the tank. Like, I mean, like, he is spending 40 minutes, 50 minutes, like an hour here. And then even here, I think he tanks a long time. And I think at this point, like somewhere here, probably after this, so rook b6 is kind of a waste. If you're going to take, just take. Like, why are you helping me take the pawn? He's already down to like 20, 30 minutes, like very bad time pressure. And I've just been walking around. I mean, I actually haven't had to play chess yet. I've played this game before. I've seen all these moves. I knew exactly what to do. Rook b6 I haven't seen, but I mean, I just take on d5. It's not like I have to think here. Now here is where I kind of start playing like a bonobo, where I think I'm trapping the rook, but I'm not. I just completely miss queen e7. This is kind of like the end of the line, kind of like you see the guy running sideways and stuff, or swinging his hands. Like, you're not gonna play. You're probably not gonna have your best chess unless you're really playing for a championship or something, and then it's like, all right, it's time to go. So knight c3, bishop f5, bishop b3, and luckily for me, he decides to trap his own rook. Like, what a nice guy. Queen c1. So this is actually a very interesting question. Like, do you go queen c1 or knight a4? According to the computer, it doesn't matter. But as a human, if queen c1, or sorry, knight a4, rook c2 looks like it might work. Because if I go bishop takes, he's going to go bishop takes, and now he's going to get his material back. But I think all I can do is just go knight c3, realize it didn't work, he's got to go back, and then I'm like, alright, now for queen c1. But I see that, like, definitely after this tournament, my calculations gotten better. I mean, playing so much chess or spending so much time thinking, like, you're going to get better for sure. So I go, so queen c1, take, and then here, I mean, it kind of is trivial, but I got to think a little bit. In f4, rook b4, it looks like he's got something for a sec. But knight d5, take, and basically I can just trade off into this endgame. I was wondering, do I keep the rooks or not? But I was like, come on, like I can win this. And basically here, like, you just march your king all the way. So basically this e6 pawn. This e6 pawn is the key. This is the guy I have to get. So I march my king all the way over there, and then he misses this very nice maneuver, rook f6, because now he can't take, because if he takes, pawn takes, I push all the way. And anywhere else, if he goes like g5, I just take on e6, and this pawn is going to take me all the way. So that is it, 9 rounds, rook f6 to cap it off. I get to end kind of in that beautiful, nice little fashion. So I ended up with 5.5 out of 9. Unfortunately, I just missed I am norm. I actually made a women's international master norm, but unfortunately, that is no good to me. I ended up winning like $200, which I guess is nice. Half a point more, man. Half a point more. Norm, $2,000. Just half a point makes such a big difference. Even if Philly International, half a point more would have meant more money and a norm, probably. Grading this tournament, I would probably give it like a B+. This one I started off so strong, so hot, and then honestly just threw away 2 games the next day to Grandmasters that I think I could have held against if I had a more just grounded, stable mindset instead of like, I can beat anyone. Magnus, come here, I'll beat you too. Who wants it? Come get it. And then tough day after the 2 losses, the 2 draws against low rateds. I needed to convert at least one of those. Probably both would have been really, really nice. And then a good way to finish, just honestly just going with the flow, letting my opponent do all the work those 2 games. Yeah, so on to the next one. I mean, my best win ever, so that's always nice. But gotta get those norms. No excuses no more. I know I can do it. Like, I mean, I got the highest scores in these tournaments, so on to the next one. I'll see you guys later, and hope you guys were entertained. Bye.